everyone. Good afternoon, and thanks again for joining. My name is Sanchita Pal, and I'm a Contracts and Grant Supervisor at UC Berkeley. And today, I have the pleasure of welcoming all of you to the session, Fill Your People Power, Developing the Top In-Demand Workplace Skills, presented by Kelsey Neff. Kelsey improves the workplace climate and culture with an intentional focus on two areas, systems and people. By identifying barriers to success on an individual and organizational level, she works to improve policies, procedures, and professional relationships. She practices the tenets of servant leaderships and believes that excellence happens when you focus on both big picture vision as well as the day-to-day operation to make it a reality. Kelsey is an experienced trainer and has presented at local, state, national, and international education conferences. Her career in nonprofit management has created a foundation in strategic planning, assessment and evaluation, grant writing and management, professional development, and community organizing. She holds a Bachelor's of Art degree in sociology. So let's welcome Kelsey Neff. Thank you. And Kelsey, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to be here and for that warm welcome. I really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. This is a topic that I absolutely love to talk about. So we're going to talk about in-demand workplace skills. So as the generations change, as we have new entry-level workers entering the workforce, there's things that are shifting in terms of the skills that are really in demand that employers are looking for. So we're going to dive into what those look like. So throughout this training, I like to use a tool called Slido. So Slido is a really great engagement tool. It's a way for me to get live engagement and polls and feedback from you as the audience, and as a way for you to engage in a little bit more of kind of a safe and harmonious way as a group. So if you'd like to join via Slido, you can scan this QR code and that should pull the presentation up on your phone or on your tablet or whatever device you're using. Or you can open up another web browser and type in our presentation code here, which is 2582605. So if you are not vibing with technology today, if you're like, you know what, I'm on this presentation, I'm working with Zoom and that's it, you can go ahead and enter your answers into the chat box, or you can always take yourself off mute and answer the question that way. So lots of different ways to engage. I like to provide lots of options. So I'll give it just a minute. If you do want to engage via Slido, feel free to jump in there and get that set up. If you happen to miss these instructions or for some reason it's not connecting, no worries. Every single Slido interaction that we have, the instructions will pop up again on how to join. So if you miss it, no worries, it will pop up again. But again, multiple options. Feel free to throw it in the chat box or take yourself off mute and answer any questions that pop up. So the first thing to start us off is just, what do you feel is missing? So what's one thing that's missing from today's workplace culture or climate? So you can think about your own professional community. You can think about maybe as you're hearing from friends or family and their jobs, what do you feel like is really missing in terms of just how we're engaging professionally and how we're engaging as a work community? So we have some answers popping up here. Connection, community, yes, harmony, that's a big one for sure. Empathy, beautiful interaction, support. Yeah. So you'll notice some of the answers getting bigger on the screen. So that means either those are being upvoted, right? So as they're popping up, you have the option to upvote or agree, or you're typing in the same word. And as they get bigger, that means more and more people are agreeing with that and also kind of co-signing on that as something that's missing. So we have resources, clarity, collective care. Ooh, that's a really good answer. Integrity in all decisions, connection, community, career growth. Great. Accountability, huge one. And in the chat box, we do have connection as a suggestion as well. Connection definitely seems to be a big thing in terms of how we're connecting as people, in terms of how we're connecting as a community, as a team, career growth, pragmatism, mentoring. Beautiful. Yeah, really beautiful answers. All right, I'll give it just a minute as those answers are keep coming in. Respect, great. Incentives, interesting. Okay. Leveling of power, beautiful answer. So I want you to take a look at all of the answers here on the screen and think about like what's common or what's a similarity amongst them. So what kind of unites all of these answers? There are different things up here, but what's something that's really similar about all of these answers that we've put? And I'll just give it a minute as you kind of process and kind of identify what's really similar about all these answers. And if you have any things that are popping up or any ideas, feel free to throw those in the chat box of just what's unifying of all these answers or a similar thread in all these answers. The one thing that pops up for me in terms of a very similar thread, yeah, so people are putting in the chat box, people skills, non-technical skills, great answer, sense of belonging. Yeah, so these are all, for the most part, I'd say about 95% of them, they're people skills, right? No one is saying we're lacking technical skills, we're lacking internet skills, we're lacking the ability to code, right? We're not talking about these things. We're talking about just those uniquely human skills and the things that really drive us as humans. And so if we're talking about what's really missing from today's culture, as technology advances at such an insanely rapid rate, we're really lagging behind in terms of our human skills, right? So we're not having this parallel development in terms of technical skills and human skills. We're really missing out on that human development piece as we evolve as a work culture. So the future belongs to those who learn more skills and combine them in creative ways. So the good news is that even though we've kind of identified as a group that we're really missing these human skills and this engagement piece as humanity, as we grow technologically, it's not too late. We can still develop them. We're still capable of changing. We're capable of learning, and we're capable of really empowering our teams to do the same, right? So the more that we embrace human skills and people skills, the more that we can kind of close this achievement gap in terms of the technical development versus the human development. But it takes some investment. It takes some investment in learning about these skills, what skills are missing, and then also how to develop them as well. So I'm going to put a couple different statements on the screen on the following slide. And if you have a piece of paper or maybe open up a notes app on your phone, whatever way that you're kind of taking notes or keeping track of things today, feel free to, you can list them, list numbers 1 through 12. So list 1 through 12 as a list. And then as we go through, I'm going to pop up a statement. And I want you to rate yourself on this statement from 1 to 10. So 1, not true at all. You don't identify with it. 10, as true as can be. There's never been a more true statement about yourself. Okay. And then you're going to do on a scale from there. So if you're kind of in the middle, maybe it's a 5 or a 6. But again, 1 being not true at all, 10 being as true as can be. So you're going to list on your piece of paper, on your notepad, wherever you're taking notes, 1 through 12. And I'll give you just a minute to go ahead and get set up for that. All right. So the first one, we're just going to go ahead and just kind of assess your people skills. So let's look at these. So the first one, number 1, I rarely experience communication issues with people in my life. So again, 1, that is not true at all. I struggle with communication a lot. I'm always having miscommunications. 10, yep, true as can be. I'm great at communicating. I rarely have issues with communication in my life. So rate yourself 1 through 10 on that one. All right, next one. When working on teams, I often find myself naturally taking a leadership role. So when you're working on teams, what does your leadership proficiency look like? Do you kind of naturally fill that role if there's not already a defined leadership role? Maybe you're in a leadership role already. So again, 1, not true at all. 10, as true as can be. Number 3, I work well with a variety of people from diverse backgrounds. 1 to 10. All right, and I'll give it just a minute if you need a second on 1 through 3. So again, your scale is 1, not true at all. 10, as true as can be. I definitely connect with that statement and feel like it describes me well. All right, moving on to the next ones. I excel at finding innovative solutions to complex problems and thinking of original ideas. So innovative solutions, complex problems, thinking of original ideas. 5, I consistently meet deadlines and maintain a high level of productivity. One, not at all. Constantly struggle. I'm never meeting deadlines. My boss is always reminding me of things that are coming up. 10, I'm great at that. Never miss a deadline. Super organized, very productive. Number 6, I can easily adapt to a new action plan when things change or unexpected issues arise. So how good are you at kind of changing and shifting and adapting when issues pop up or plans change? And I'll give it just a minute if you need some more time on 4 through 6. All right. Number 7, I often take initiative in identifying and resolving issues. Are you that problem solver person who just hops in and handles things and tries to identify issues or resolving issues, identify and resolve issues? Number 8, I work hard to meet my personal and professional goals. Number 9, I can skillfully analyze information and data to make well-informed decisions. How well are you at analyzing data and using data to make decisions? Number 10, I am able to solutions to conflicts that meet each party's needs. So how well are you at identifying solutions that make both people happy in a conflict or multiple people happy in a conflict? Or maybe not happy, but maybe they meet needs. Number 11, I am adept at challenging assumptions and thinking outside the box. And number 12, I effectively manage my emotions and respond appropriately to the emotions of others. So we'll give it just a minute on this page, 7 through 12. So again, you should have a number 1 through 10 that are identifying how you feel you are with each of these statements. So 1, not true at all, 10, as true as can be, and you're ranking yourself. And I'll give it just a minute if you need some time. But make sure you have a number for each 1 through 12. All right. So each of these statements are associated with a top in demand people skill, right? So this data came from HR managers, leaders, lots of different people were involved in this poll and in this ongoing research on what are we missing and how do we work on these things. So these are the things that people responded saying, this is what we need. This is what is missing. This is what is missing both in candidates, right? So in entry-level workers and in workplace communities. So we're missing these skills in both an individual level and an organizational level. So each one of these statements were associated with one skill that was identified as one of these top in-demand workplace skills. So if we look at number 1, I rarely experience communication issues with people in my life. That one's pretty obvious. We're looking at communication. So communication is a big thing. So many things get boiled down to communication. This is something that's really missing in terms of just these communication skills in order to how to communicate effectively when everybody has different communication styles. I also find this one very interesting because we have never had more variety in terms of how we can communicate. There are multiple ways to connect and communicate in our modern workplace. We have emails, we have messages, we have phone calls, we have in-person communication, we have Zoom, we have video calls. There's so many ways to communicate. And for some reason, communication is more of a struggle than ever in terms of our workplace. So when working on teams, I often find myself naturally taking a leadership role. Again, pretty obvious, that one is leadership. So leadership has been identified as something that is missing. So as we look at leadership and clearly defined workplace cultures and structures, leadership is kind of one of these things that's continuing to be fluid. So as we look at shifting to maybe a more harmonious or synchronistic type work culture, how do you involve leadership in that? Because leadership is still a really important and vital tool when it comes to workplace culture. I work well with a variety of people from diverse backgrounds. That is collaboration. So how well are you at collaborating and connecting with people? Again, as we continue to evolve and change our work culture, we are getting more and more diverse. And this is not just in terms of cultural diversity. This can be age diversity. It can be experience level diversity. It can be just diversity in terms of interests or backgrounds or hobbies. It can be diversity in terms of introverts versus extroverts, right? On how you engage and how you work together. So collaboration is something that we're really struggling with because we're getting more and more diverse in terms of all of these different levels. So how do we collaborate and continue to work together efficiently when everyone's kind of coming from a different place and a different background? I excel at finding innovative solutions to complex problems and thinking of original ideas, creativity. So this one is definitely associated with creativity. Creativity is that super uniquely human skill that we really can't define it, or we really don't really know where it comes from or how it originates, but it's vital in making sure that we're coming up with solutions to complex problems, right? Because these things are constantly shifting in terms of what problems are and how to find solutions for them. So creativity is vital in doing that. I consistently meet deadlines and maintain a high level of productivity. So that's time management. So time management, a lot of HR managers, a lot of leaders are talking about how time management is more of a struggle than ever, especially with entry-level workers or kind of younger workers. We're really struggling with just kind of how to prioritize and how to manage our time effectively. And I do think a lot of this is also because of the way our society is now structured in terms of constantly having competing interests on our time. We're now multitasking constantly. So in terms of that, things get kind of, they fall through the cracks, or we struggle with how to manage our time effectively because we're always doing 5 things at once. I can easily adapt to a new action plan when things change or unexpected issues arise. This is adaptability. So being able to change and kind of adapt with what the new, this is something that we're struggling with. This is something we're also seeing a really high burnout rate from because our society is constantly changing. And I think ever since COVID happened, we have constantly had to adapt and change how we're engaging with each other, how our work structures are built, how our work communities are built. So people are almost more resistant to adaptability because we're just burned out and we're tired from it. So how do we kind of respond and create spaces where we can heal from that burnout so that we can embrace adaptability again? I often take initiative in identifying and resolving issues. That is problem solving. So being able to solve those problems when they come up and identify solutions, super crucial need. I work hard to meet my personal and professional goals is work ethic. So we're also seeing a slip in work ethic. And this, I think, stems from a good reason, right? Because we now more than ever, we're looking at work-life balance and how to maintain work-life balance and how to balance our lives to not burn out. And we have been such a kind of a hustle culture for so long. So now that we're looking to find more balance, maybe we're slipping a little bit with work ethic. So again, how do we come back to that harmonizing place where we can prioritize both in our lives, but still maintain a high level of work ethic and work integrity? Next is critical thinking. So I can skillfully analyze information and data to make well-informed decisions. So this is critical thinking. This is something, again, that has been identified as something that is seriously missing because I personally think we are the age of instant gratification, the age of I need to know something, I type it in Google. So we're losing or we're changing in terms of how we approach critical thinking. No longer are we looking at the step-by-step moving through a problem and taking time to really invest in how we're approaching situations. We're moving really quickly and we want to move really quickly from just point A to point B. So the process is really important, and how we work on developing that process with our teams and with incoming employees is also really crucial. I'm able to find solutions to conflicts that meet parties' needs. So conflict management, also pretty obvious. Conflict management is something that is crucial because when you're working with people, there's always going to be conflict. Conflict is a reality of just the human experience. So it's not about avoiding conflict. It's not about getting rid of conflict. It's about how do we manage it, right? How do we move on from it so that we can get back to what we're all supposed to be working on, or what our focus should be on, or whatever the shared goal is. I am adept at challenging assumptions and thinking outside the box. That is innovation. So innovation has been, since the dawn of time, a really important thing because it's how we all evolve as people and as a society. It's how we move forward and continue to move forward. Innovation is that uniquely human skill. And as our technology, again, advances more and more, we need to stay innovative as humans and kind of learn how to harness and hone that skill set so that we can stay on top of changing times when it comes to our cultures. I effectively manage my emotions and respond appropriately to the emotions of others. That is emotional intelligence. So again, that uniquely human skill set of just a reality. Emotions are a part of the human experience. They're going to be a reality on our teams no matter what. So how do we, again, develop the skills to increase our emotional intelligence so that we can work with them effectively and create harmony in our workplaces? So it may be helpful as you go through this. So if you haven't done so, on your list 1 through 12, if you can just write what the corresponding skills are. So really quickly, number 1 is communication, number 2 is leadership, 3 collaboration, etc. So go ahead and write that down next to your number so that way you know which number that you ranked yourself is associated with which skill. For example, for communication, maybe you have a 6, right? But you know that you ranked yourself a 6 when it came to communication. So I'll give you just a minute to do that. Again, make sure you just write down each of these workplace skills that are associated with the rankings that you gave yourself. I'll give you just a minute to catch up on that. Sorry about that again. Okay, so I believe that why people skills, there's lots and lots of reasons. I'm sure you all have your own response to this question of why we should focus on people skills. But one of the most important ones for me is that as we, again, enhance and increase in terms of technology, in particular with AI, which is going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be the future of work, whether or not we agree with it or not. It's just becoming too much of a technological advancement that we can't ignore anymore, right? So we have to learn how to incorporate it and find a place to come to harmony with it in our workplace. But because AI is now continuing to evolve and increase in the ways that we are going to be engaging with it, we need to make sure that, again, our development as humans, as people, are continuing at the same pace. So we're continuing to develop and invest in these skill sets that are uniquely human. So if we look at AI in terms of what AI is currently really good at, it's these easily automated skills, right? So it's memory things, computer and technological skills, quantitative skills, repeat tasks. So these things AI is really advancing in, and it's going to be able to maybe have jobs that are replaced by AI that are kind of fall in these wheelhouses. But these things, these human skills, AI isn't good at, right? So we need to make sure that these pieces we are still staying on top of as a human race and making sure that we're continuing to develop and advance in these ways. So communication skills, listening skills, critical thinking skills, interpersonal skills. So looking at as AI continues to evolve and advance, we need to make sure we're involving and advancing in these people skills. And let's be honest, when we have a team that has high levels of people skills, these high level of interpersonal skills, it's just a lot easier to work on those teams, right? We have a lot more harmony, we're a lot more productive, we're able to connect and communicate better. So all of these things really lend towards more successful and highly efficient teams. So there's many reasons why people skills are important to develop and be aware of, but really there's this AI thing that I think is uniquely a factor right now in terms of maybe the last 5, 10 years, and definitely going into the next 10, 20, 50 years, it's going to be a huge factor as well. Okay, so now looking at your list, so I want you to rank your skills. So rank your skills in terms of what you ranked yourself. You can go highest to lowest, you can go lowest to highest, whatever makes the most sense to you. But what you want to do is you want to identify your top skills that you feel like you're very, very efficient in, and then also maybe a couple ones that you're not so efficient in or that you struggle with a little bit more. So go ahead and just kind of rank and see where each of these fell on your scale in terms of things you're really good at versus things that you struggle with a little bit more. And I'll give you about 2 minutes to do that. So just looking at your list, put them in order of skill set.
Kelsey, there's a question on the chat. Would you like to answer that now, or would you prefer to wait till the end?
Yeah, so as people are ranking, we can go ahead and answer that. So data on here is from 2018. Yes, so it is a little outdated. So the new data that's coming out, it takes time to kind of look at all of these different components and see how they change. And while they do change pretty rapidly, it's not so rapid in terms of every single year we're replacing the soft skills that are in demand. And then skills in demand may have evolved post-pandemic. Definitely, skills in demand have evolved post-pandemic. But again, what happened with the pandemic was so traumatic. I think what it did, rather than changing a lot, I think it just highlighted it a lot. So I think during the pandemic, because we were all kind of forced into isolation, we missed out on communication, we missed out on connection, we missed out on relationship building, conflict resolution, all of these things that again just kind of put a spotlight on the skills that are missing. Also because most, if not all, corporate structures had to completely change and alter how they related to each other, how they worked as a team during the pandemic. It really put a spotlight on those things. I think everybody can relate to that, that things shifted so much in 2020 and definitely coming out of the pandemic and trying to figure out what the new normal is. We're looking at all of these soft skills that, were definitely concerns before, but now are highly, highly, highly in need and in demand, and things that we need to continue to evolve and invest in as we look for the future and how we're going to build our corporate structures and what our organizations are going to look like. Great question. All right. So hopefully you have had some time to kind of rank and put your skills in order of what you feel like are your strengths versus maybe things that you struggle with. And just what are your strengths? So what were some things that you feel like were kind of shown a spotlight on, like, yeah, I do feel like this is something that I'm really good at, something that I feel highly engaged in, something that I feel highly adept in. So go ahead and throw those out there in Slido. Again, you can put them in the chat box or take yourself off mute. So some people are putting intelligence, emotional intelligence, strong work ethic. That's great. Time management. Nice. Time management. Cool. Collaboration. Very nice. I also find it interesting. I've done this training with a couple of different types of organizations and a couple different types of conferences. And it does shift a little bit in terms of what people feel like they're really skilled in based on the industry that they're in. So a lot of times when I work with tech companies or startups or things like that, the collaboration piece isn't as strong. So I find it interesting that we do tend to maybe navigate towards industries that we do feel a strength in, right? Or things that we're really good at. So I just find that interesting. But yeah, collaboration seems to be a big one. Emotional intelligence, critical thinking, beautiful. Very nice. Some people put time management in the chat box. Great. Yeah, collaboration seems to be a kind of unifying one, a really common one across the group. That's great to hear. Lovely. All right, now looking at the opposite side of the spectrum, what do you feel like you struggle with? Which skill sets do you feel like are a particular challenge for you? Innovation, time management, leadership. Okay, interesting. Leadership seems to be popular. Yeah, conflict management is the big one. Innovation. Adaptability. Adaptability is it's a struggle. It's really hard when we're looking at just how to constantly shift and pivot. And I think that's again something that has really, really been highlighted a lot since the pandemic, of just constantly shifting and trying to figure out how to constantly adapt to meet needs or to meet, changing trends or to meet just everything that's constantly shifting in our society. That adaptability piece is more crucial than ever, but it's also just a struggle. Communication, problem solving, very nice. So a lot of people put communication. Someone asked in the chat box, do these strengths ranking change over time? Definitely. Yeah. So your strengths will change, I think, based on where your current focus is. They also change with experience. So if you've never been in a leadership role, then it's kind of hard to figure out if that is a strength for you. Maybe you get your first opportunity as a leader and then you realize, oh, this is something that I really feel like is a skill set for me and it's something that I'm investing in and working on. So as you put time and intention into developing these skill sets, they are going to shift over time for sure. Beautiful. All right. So looking at your areas that you struggle with, I want you to choose one in particular. So if you had a couple that kind of were all the same number, the same ranking, choose one that just feels like it's the most important in terms of what your development currently looks like. So maybe you're taking on a leadership role or we're given an opportunity to step into a leadership role and you feel like you struggle with that. Or maybe you got tasked with a new project and you're going to need to put some creativity or some innovation into how to meet the demands of those projects. So just choose one area that just feels particularly important for you right now in terms of wherever you're at with your professional development or with your professional work scope. So choose one area that you want to focus on really intentionally for the next little bit and just kind of identify that one in yourself. And we're going to look at just setting some goals and just exploring that area further for you in terms of why it's a challenge and maybe how to shift and put some intention into maybe if we don't get it all the way to a strength, even if it's just kind of shifting it out of the challenge area and into something that you're like recognizing, yes, maybe this is a struggle for me, but I'm working on developing it and I'm working on putting some intention behind that skill set. So choosing that one area, focusing in really intentionally on it. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. So again, if you have paper or if you're taking notes some way, whatever your process is for kind of learning and exploring and reflecting on these things, just take some time to set yourself up for that. So you're going to have 3 questions. You can just kind of sit and think. For me, it's like I don't always like to just write immediately. Sometimes I need to just kind of sit and process it. You can do that. If you're a writer, feel free to just dive in and write some notes. These may even be things that you'll want to ask questions to people in your life, whether you have mentors or you have loved ones or colleagues, maybe that you want to ask and just kind of get some feedback off of them in terms of how they see that in you. So feel free to kind of have that as an option as well in terms of how to reflect on this and process this. So the first thing we're going to start with is why. So think about an example of the last time you really struggled with this skill. Why do you think it was difficult? And also, what was going on at the time? So I want to leave some grace here for just our human needs. A lot of the times, if it's maybe communication that we're looking at, and we think about, oh, a week ago, I got into a little bit of a communication or miscommunication with a colleague, really unpacking what was going on at the time, because sometimes it's, you were responding to an email and you had a phone call and you were just coming from a meeting, so your mind wasn't really focused in, or maybe it's that you were hungry and it was after lunch or before lunch and you were angry about something, or maybe you got into a fight with a loved one and that was impacting your ability to communicate effectively. So really look at why was it difficult during this particular instance and what was going on at the time that made it more difficult. So just take a couple minutes, reflect on that. We're going to take 3 minutes and reflect on that. And I'm going to just play some soft music in the background as we focus on this question. All right, so if you need a couple more minutes, just kind of process that one. Feel free to keep writing. The questions will stay on the screen, so as you move through them, feel free to take some more time where you need to. Next, we're going to look at how. So how can you navigate this differently in the future? And what goals can you set to help you improve in this skill? So if there are maybe particular trainings that you want to take, or if you just need to maybe ask for feedback or ask for an accountability buddy to maybe say something or have a code word when you're struggling with that skill set, or maybe you're not showing up in the way that you want to. So think about just what goals can you set, or what supports can you put into place to just kind of help you be more aware of this skill and help you further develop in this skill set. So 2 minutes, 3 minutes to answer that one. All right, and the last one is your what. So what impact would improving this skill have in your personal and professional life? So this is a really important piece of the goal setting process. We really want to look at impact. Understanding the improvements that could be made helps us really stay focused on our intention with developing that skill set. So just a couple notes on the impact that improving would have in both your personal and professional life. Okay, so I hope that there was some insights or some aha moments that came through for you as you were thinking about these 3. I use the why, the how, and the what in so many different things as we're looking at developing and creating different impacts or intentions with skill sets and goal setting, because it's really, really important to identify root causes. So you can't just say, I'm horrible at problem solving. The way to kind of look at that and really assess it is starting with why. So really figuring out what are the root causes, why is that a challenge area for you? And getting into the why can unleash a whole slew of things. So for some people, they find it's a struggle because in the way that I was raised, we did it this way. And then as I'm finding in my team that I'm working on, or as I entered into, a corporate setting, that's not how a lot of other people operate or resolve conflicts, right? Or you find the why of it's actually an avoidant behavior because I had a trauma in a certain way. So the why can really incorporate so many different things, but very, very important to start with those root causes. Also important to just leave some grace for ourselves as we're looking at human skills and people skills. We are humans and we are people, and these things navigate and transverse over so many different areas of our lives. So it's not just our professional lives, it's also our personal lives as well. And we bring all of that with us as we move about our life. So thinking about just giving yourself grace, but really identifying the why and where these things come from, and where, is there a certain common thread in terms of when you really struggle with conflict resolution? Is there a common thread of like, this is the piece that makes me uncomfortable with it? Trying to identify those things can help set you up to make more strategic goals and how to work on them and to work more efficiently in developing that skill set. Then as you move on to how, then looking at to the nitty gritty of like what just in practice can you do? So how can you navigate that differently? And again, we're not looking at moving it from a challenge to a strength overnight. It takes some time, but just moving it from a challenge to a little bit less of a challenge is a huge win. Or moving it from a challenge area that I felt really uncomfortable with to this is something that I can now navigate with a little bit more ease in my professional life and in my personal life is a huge win. So we don't change, we don't evolve overnight. We don't just rapidly transform how we engage with people in our lives overnight, but having some intention and some awareness around our people skills and our human skills and why we engage the way that we do is just a great way to just have some more awareness and intention around how to kind of show up as that higher version of ourselves. And then always ending with what, because you have to attach that impact. So it's really, really important to understand the impact that continuing to focus on this and continuing to have some intention behind developing this, the impact that it would have or the potential that it has to improve these aspects of your life. Very important to always be aware of that and to realize that, because that's gonna keep us focused and staying on track with these intentions and goals that we're setting for ourselves. So your future depends on the choices that you make today. The future for this reason can be predicted by your day-to-day living. So as somebody asked in the chat box earlier, can your strengths change? Your strengths can definitely change. And one of the most beautiful things about being a human, one of my most favorite things about humanity is that we really have no measure or no capacity or no limit on how we can change and grow. We have so much potential every single day to continue developing these things in ourselves and continue working towards the version of ourselves that we really want to show up as. So that's one of the best things about being human. That's one of the most beautiful things about being human, but it really depends on consistency, choices, and intention. So just putting some awareness behind that intention and then showing up in your life to honor that higher version of yourself that you're really trying to bring forth in your personal and professional life. You can always change and you can shift, and that future depends on the choices that you're making right now in your day-to-day life. So thank you. That just about brings us to the time. We do want to leave some time at the end for questions and answers if there are questions and answers. I know there's also some closeout pieces. So I have my information up here. This is my email, so I'd love to stay connected. I also have a QR code here that will take you to my Instagram. I post almost daily on company culture, on leadership, on human skills, all of these good things. Also, if you'd like a copy of this presentation or more resources, I'm actually developing an entire online course around these 12 in-demand people skills. If you want some more information on that, please put your email in the chat box and I'll reach out to you with just more information on those pieces. So it has been lovely to be here with you all. Thank you so much for the time and this space to connect on this. I think it's a really important topic and something that I am just continuing to invest and spread the word about, because we need to keep evolving and keep investing in what makes us uniquely human. So thank you all for your time, and I'll hand it back over to Sanchita.